Hi everyone, today PhoneArena is taking a look at the BlackBerry Curve 9370. Just recently came out for Verizon Wireless, though it is a few months after the 9350 and 9360, which are available through Sprint and T-Mobile. So it's a little bit late here to the ball, but still nice to eventually see it come out. Pretty much similar design to the Curve 9330, which came out back in 2010. Have a very slim design here, only a 0.43 inches thick, so very sleek and streamlined. As you can see, it's a pretty small device, easily fits in the hand, and also very lightweight, coming in at just 3.49 ounces, so overall very compact. On the front of the display here, it's 2.44 inches, so it's a little bit larger than the display on the 9330, but the resolution is now up to 480 by 360 pixels instead of the traditional 320 by 240 pixels. So it allows the display to have a nice sharp text and images, but still kind of on the small side at just 2.44 inches diagonal. Have your standard BlackBerry buttons down here at the bottom with the optical trackpad in the center. Works relatively well. Still in all, doesn't really compare to an actual touch screen. Below that, you have your QWERTY keypad on here. Keys are still relatively small. Of course, nowhere as large as a BlackBerry Bold, but as you can see, they're kind of small and cramped together, so you really got to pay attention to where you're typing, as occasionally we noticed pressing 2 or maybe even 3 keys at once. So not the best typing experience, but still not terrible either. Along the sides of the device, you have a micro USB port, 3.5 millimeter headset jack, lock key. Also your volume rocker and a programmable key here on the right side. As you can see, they're not actual individual buttons, but more like little lumps from the surrounding plastic. On the back here, have a 5 megapixel autofocus camera with LED flash. Sorry, it's not autofocus, just a standard 5 megapixel camera with LED flash. It's unfortunate that autofocus isn't on the camera. Also on the back here has a nice soft touch coating on here, which provides for a pretty decent grip. So overall, not anything extraordinary with the styling, but we do like the fact that it's a little bit smaller and streamlined this time around. The BlackBerry Curve 9370 sports a 800 megahertz single core processor and also 512 megabytes of RAM. While this isn't nearly as much as higher end smartphones, still does pretty well on the device. Also supported is using the BlackBerry OS version 7. As you can see here on the home screen, starts out with just a small icon tab here at the bottom. Of course, you can swipe between different functions on here. When going into all, then lists a more full list of different programs available. Also going over to favorites, media, have on here for music and pictures and video. Also comes with Verizon tones, VCast video, and Song ID / radio. Also on board is Verizon's VZ Navigator software for GPS guided directions. So overall, nothing out of the ordinary on here with BlackBerry OS 7. Of course, email comes on board with BlackBerry. Also have Facebook and Twitter apps on here, as well as YouTube, as well as also messaging through Google, as well as Yahoo and Windows Live. So overall, a pretty decent selection of apps included on the device. Over the past year, Verizon has been touting their 4G LTE data network, but unfortunately here on the BlackBerry Curve 9370, we're still having to use the EVDO Revision A network because that complex websites like PhoneArena.com here take about 60 to 90 seconds to fully load. So not nearly as fast as if it were LTE enabled, but once it's loaded up here, you can see the web browser does pretty good with the website. Not super smooth. Again, having to use the trackpad down on the bottom instead of a touch screen like most other smartphones are using these days. Also, zooming in and out. Again, have to use the trackpad down here on the bottom for that, as well as the BlackBerry key here. So you can go into that and do different zoom levels by going up and down on the optical trackpad. So a little cumbersome to use because of that, but the browser is actually not that bad considering. Even though having a 5 megapixel camera is nice, we weren't that impressed with the one here on the BlackBerry Curve 9370. We found that image quality to be lacking overall. Also, colors are a bit faded and mute, and occasionally images seem to have a bit of a bluish hue to them. So color reproduction isn't that great. Also, when going interior shots, there's quite a bit of graininess, but flash images do come out pretty decent. So not the best camera that we've seen, still not the worst. Still in all, not really that impressed with the camera quality. As far as videos are concerned, you're limited to VGA resolution for that, but at least the playback quality is pretty smooth at 30 frames per second. Unfortunately, call quality is below par on the BlackBerry Curve 9370, as voices on our end were a bit flat and dull sounding, while people that we called said that it sounded a bit hollow and choppy on their end, though we didn't drop any calls or data connections. The included 1,000 milliamp battery is only rated to provide up to 5.5 hours of talk time, but we were able to get about 8 hours of mixed usage before requiring a charge. So overall, the BlackBerry Curve 9370 isn't that interesting of a device, considering it's months after the 9350 and 9360 came out. Definitely would have been more interested in this if it came out 6 to 8 months ago, especially when compared to other smartphones right now, such as Android and iPhone. Not a whole lot of interest here in BlackBerry, though the OS 7 does pretty well. Still in all, feels a bit antiquated at this point. Also, the 2-year contract price with Verizon is $100. This is a bit steep considering other smartphones are coming in at lower prices these days too. We feel that $50 would have been a little bit more competitive for the device, especially since, like we said, it's a bit outdated at this point. So if you want to find out more information about the BlackBerry Curve 9370, be sure to check out our website at PhoneArena.com.